Sony digital cameras are some of the best in the world, and especially from the design features and even the value perspective when you think about mirrorless cameras. And one of the things that you do have to admire about Sony is that you do have a lot of lens choices. And the most recent one that I picked up, I'm not filming on it right now, is the Sony 40mm F2.5G. So this lens, one of the main appeals with it, so Sony about a year and a half ago released three lenses, a 50, a 40, and a 28 millimeter. So the 50 and the 40 are f2.5, the 24 millimeter is an f2.8. So the appeal with these lenses is that for number one, they're going to be nice and compact in size. So the reason particularly I picked this one up, well, two reasons. Number one is for when we have a camera and we're doing product B-roll, on a motorized slider, a lens such as this is going to be nice and small, and you'll be able to put it on right on the camera without changing the center point, the center of gravity on that. This is also going to be important if you're a video shooter and you're shooting on a gimbal. You don't want to have anything that's going to that's going to stick out, and possibly it's going to be more difficult in order to find the center of gravity and to center on there. Now this is also a G lens, and what that means is that you're going to get fantastic image quality, sometimes close to what you would expect with the GM lens, but definitely better than a lot of the standard FE lenses, and it is going to give you GM features. So in particular, what we're talking about is you have an aperture ring, so you'll adjust down from 2.5 up to minimum aperture of f22. Now, if you don't want to adjust the aperture manually, you can just throw it into automatic, and you can control it from your camera. So one of the reasons why you would want to control the aperture with the ring is for videography, for doing aperture pulls. And obviously the clicks don't work, so that is where you have the next feature. So right here it says click on or off. So when you put the click off, now you have a super smooth aperture ring, except when you get to the end and it clicks into automatic, so you can do aperture pulls. Very, very cool feature. On the other side of the lens, you are going to have a you're going to have the G badge. You're going to have a button that you can customize. So by default, it's a focus hold button. However, on your camera body, you can set it to whatever you want it to do. And then you have an autofocus manual focus switch right on the camera body. So once again, if you want to do focus pulls, you can definitely do them here. Probably the only complaint with this lens is that when you're putting it on and off, because the lens is so small, oftentimes I find myself actually declicking from controlled by camera, and it's going to be controlled by the ring. And because your focus ring is going to be close to the aperture ring, some people will get them a little bit confused. However, the aperture ring is actually raised, so I don't find that to be a problem myself. Now, the lens itself is going to be fairly lightweight. I don't actually recall how many grams it weighs. Let's see, do we have even that specification? It's actually not on here, but very, very, very lightweight lens. But still very, very high quality. Now, the other reason why I picked up this lens is because for travel. So when you're going to go somewhere on travel, let's say for example, especially if it's not going to be a safer place and you're going to do street photography, travel photography, you don't want to attract a ton of attention. And if you're walking around with a GM lens or something that's going to stick out a lot, it's going to be attracting a lot of people, and it's possibly going to invite trouble. With this lens, it's nice, small, and compact, and once you throw it on a body, and the Sony bodies aren't even that big, and especially, let's say, for example, you're throwing this on a A7C, no one's going to be the wiser unless you really go look for the G badges right on the lens. And even still, it's a regular black G badge, it's not the orange GM badge. But overall, very, very good image quality. This 40mm focal distance is going to be Good for general type portraits, might be a tiny bit tight for street photography unless you're standing back a little bit. Very, very nice for video work on a full frame. And keep in mind, if you throw this on an APS-C body, you're going to have an effective range of about 60 millimeters, and you can also do that on a full frame just by going into crop mode or using clear image zoom. Now, this does use the XD linear motors, and what that means is that when you get the lens, it's going to feel like there's something moving inside, and if you're not used to that, you're like, oh, wow, there's something actually wrong with the lens. But when it's not on the body and it's not working, that's pretty much exactly standard, and you're going to find that on a 20mm F1.8G as well. But very, very solid lens. It does come with both the caps. It does come with a lens hood, but it's not actually this lens hood. I confused the boxes, and this is the one that's on a 24, which I'm going to be getting in about a week or so, actually lent it out to somebody to use, but we confused the um, sunshades. The sunshade that you get on here is going to be smaller. It's going to attach into here. It's going to stick out a little bit less. But on a 24 millimeter, you do have this one, because otherwise with a smaller lens hood, you'd get a bunch more big vignetting. That's basically this lens. Only other note is if you purchase brand new G lenses, you'd know that they would come in a leather case, kind of like this one. And actually here, this is actually perfect. So here's my 20mm F1.8, and here's the 40. So both of these are G lenses, but you can see how huge the size difference is. And same thing, there's things moving in both of the lenses. So big, big, big size difference, and this one is not even that big of a lens. So I'll actually put it here, and then here we have a 35mm GM lens, which is also still considered a very small lens in the grand scheme of things. So it really just shows you how small these new lenses are.